where Louise and I are attending and Scott Carter's with us too, our old friend, attending a conference on, it's a practitioner training, learning how to be a neuro-linguistic programming practitioner, or a master practitioner if you're already certified as a practitioner. And the teachers are Richard Bandler, Dr. Richard Bandler, and John and Kathleen La Valle. And Kathleen is with us right now. She is a master trainer in NLP and Design Human Engineering, DHE, and the program director of NLP Seminars Group International. And Kathleen, shall we take some phone calls?
Sure.
Yeah, sounds like fun. Let's start out with Bill in Sebastian, Florida. Bill, you're on the air. You're on.
Hey, good afternoon, Tom. Yeah, I was wondering, can this technique be used to persuade constituents by politicians, you know, as for their point of view? And can the military use this to demean detainees?
Okay, I wasn't sure, what was the word before detainees?
To demean for like interrogation techniques and things?
Demean?
Yeah, brainwash technique.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, Bill.
NLP is not really about brainwashing, because even with hypnosis, which we teach, we believe all hypnosis is self-hypnosis. Mm-hmm. You know, the person has to want to go into a trance, go into a state. We don't really use or teach it to be used on anyone. Can it be? I mean, you can use anything for good or for not good purposes. So we don't really teach it in that way. I guess you could persuade someone, you'd have a better chance of persuading them, but to absolutely have control whether or not they're going to accept the information or not is really based on how well you present the information and what's in it for them. Because, you know, we don't believe in forcing anyone to change the way they think, but we have great skills to present a better argument for that so that they would want to. But even with hypnosis, if you ask somebody to do something under hypnosis that they really don't want to do, you know, you would absolutely see it. They would just, you know, start to come up out of it. Even if you just say something that's a little bizarre, you would see the difference in the level of trance. So we really don't do the anything, and we're very careful with ourselves, even with who we let into the program. You know, it was even for you, Tom. We know you, and it was still a lengthy application process.
Yeah, there you go.
So that, you know, we want people that are here to make the world a better place, and we love it. We love doing that.
So to Bill's the first part of his question, if I walk into a town hall with a member of Congress,
absolutely,
and I have the microphone and I'm going to ask him a question in public, or if I go into his office and he's willing to see a constituent and I'm going to sit down with him and I want to try and convince him that, you know, ABC is what he should do, whether it's to get my vote or because it's the right thing.
Yeah.
What do I do?
Well, the best thing to do, if it's available, is to start listening to recordings of them talking. You know, if they have been on TV or they have anything out that you can, on their website or whatever, to really start to listen to what it is, what's their criteria, what's really their buzzwords, what's the motivation pieces that they have when they're talking about things, what's really important to them. If you had an opportunity at any point to talk to them before the meeting, that would be even better, because then you could ask the question, well, what's important to you about, you know, the tax structure in the neighborhood, if it's a town hall meeting, or what's important to you about your constituents and what they think of you. So if you don't have that opportunity, you can just listen to other, you know, interviews that they've had or other times that they've talked. They record most of those meetings. They're public domain. So that you would have already a pace and lead set up where you could pace. I know you want to do this and you think it's the right thing to do because it's important to you that these families or this neighborhood is this way, and, you know, so that you're pacing a little bit where they're at, even if you disagree with that, by pacing it a little bit first. And then you can add in something else that you want that to change and point out how that would then tie into the things that are important to him anyway. Because people aren't going to change their opinion if they have to give up something that's really important to them, whether it be a value or a criteria.
Right. So I guess there's a third dimension to that question, conceivably, which would be, let's say, we'll just hallucinate an example.
Sure.
You know, there's a school board meeting, and there's a debate about whether to build a new wing on the school. And you got some people who are very interested and very in favor of that, probably parents. You got other people who are opposed to it, probably taxpayers who don't have kids. But who knows? I mean, there's a whole range of reasons. And you're going to get up and you're going to say something to the school board, but you want to influence the 200 people sitting in the room, too.
Right.
What do you do?
Well, I think that if you already know the sides of the argument, you know that the taxpayers who don't have kids, have an issue with spending any money on the school. So you have that, you log it.
Right.
You know that the people that have children in the school and they're tired of having 50 people in a classroom, you know that they're going to want to expand the school, and for those reasons. So you have 2 points that you can bring out already. Because what would be in it, you have to think about whether you go and talk to people who you know who are taxpayers and don't have children and say, I know you think we shouldn't spend money on the school, but what's important to you about the school that's here? What's important to you about the kids get an education? So you have some information to go with. Because the one thing we do know is if you're a taxpayer in that neighborhood and you don't have kids that are going to that school, you may not want to spend money on there. But what do you want the children in your neighborhood to be like?
That's kind of universalizing it. What kind of world do you want to live in?
Right.
What kind of neighborhood?
So do you want children that have been in a classroom with 50 people and aren't really getting taught and are getting frustrated and maybe misbehaving because they're not getting the right education? So those people are going to be loose in your neighborhood. Up and down your streets? Or would you rather have a bigger school where the kids are able to get great educations and good programs so that they're learning how to do art and music and all the things that we've been cutting away from those kids? And now these children are going to be better in your neighborhood, aren't they?
Right. And if you were super chunking it down, you could say, and it'll only cost the average taxpayer an extra $4 a year.
Sure.
Or whatever.
Yeah. Is $4 worth it?
Yeah.
To have better kids in your neighborhood?
Yeah. Fascinating stuff. Let's see here. Catherine in Burlington, Vermont. Catherine, you're on the air with Kathleen La Valle.
Yes, hi. Thank you, Tom. I'm going to ask a question I'm sure somebody else has asked, but I just got on. I'll ask nevertheless. How do I deal with pig-headed people that just won't open up on any level at all from the moment of get-go? They're just, there's a wall there. Is there any way to deal
Catherine,
with that?
can you give me a for example? Or do you not need that, Kathleen?
Bigoted people that are stubborn, and they're dead sure that their bigotedness is reality. They have facts too.
Yeah. Kathleen, don't most bigots, for the or doesn't most bigotry begin with an internal phrase that goes something like, all those kinds of people are like this?
Well, I think with most of the bigots that I've met, I think it starts in their training, from the time they were born, what they've been exposed to growing up. I don't think people decide at the age of 24 or 25 to be a bigot. Yeah. I think it has a lot to do with, how they were raised, what they were exposed to growing up. And, my first response is don't deal with them. Why would you want to deal with them? Right. Now, I know sometimes we have to deal with them because, we're related to them, or we work for them, or we work with them. So I realize sometimes we have to. I think sometimes it's important to just, I have this little mantra inside my head sometimes when somebody's being that way or a different way but still negative, and I just look at them and I go, oh, poor human being. And they just don't know better, and walk away.
What would you say to somebody who came to you and said, every time I see a fill in the blank, a Mexican person, a black person, a Muslim person, I get angry, I get afraid?
Okay. So in NLP we call that a generalization, and it's a belief. So there's two ways to do that. One is to find counterexamples. So, there may be, maybe they're bigoted against, a particular race. So if you know for a fact that there are people, that they know in that race that, are great people or have done something good for them even, then you can point that out to break that generalization. But you have to also understand why they're doing that. Because a lot of times when people act out, it's really because there's something missing inside. And, they don't, either they're very insecure, So they have to be the boisterous, this is bad, all people are bad. And so that gives them some power, and they don't have that inside, that they're not confident enough with themselves that they can accept differences in others because they're very insecure. And I'm not saying all bigots are like that. I'm saying, but you really have to understand why someone's being a bigot. Sometimes it's just because it's in. It's like, they're around, everybody's like, yeah, we don't like that person. Yeah, how about you, Tom? You don't like that person either? Yeah, Tom don't like that person either. And it gets out of control. But sometimes it's just because they were taught that way. They didn't know anything better. So, we really have to find out what is the point for this person to be that way. And then there's different approaches. I mean, if it's just a generalization, it's just a belief they built, then we have to either work with a counterexample or we blow it up to where it's ridiculous. So you don't like black chairs either. You don't like, something else. And so why are you wearing shoes? So you make it ridiculous because somebody says a particular race or color they don't like. So you make it ridiculous.
Fascinating stuff. Fascinating stuff. Kathleen La Valle is with us, taking your calls and talking with me as well. I enjoyed the conversation. We'll be back.
I'm having fun too.
Me too. We'll be back with more of Kathleen.